We begin major stories this evening with the latest development on the coronavirus. The World Health Organization today declared the coronavirus a global health emergency as fears heighten across several countries. Meanwhile, having announced that depending on a risk assessment done at ports of entry, persons will be quarantined in special facilities or their homes, the Minister of Health and Wellness, Dr. Christopher Tufton, on Thursday toured the isolation unit at the National Chest Hospital in Kingston and the Norman Manley International Airport. He deemed the Norman Manley Airport as equipped. Now, this comes on the heel of the death toll rising to 117 in China and more than 8,100 confirmed cases of the virus. Aladdin Love reports.
You're looking at the isolation unit at the National Chest Hospital in Kingston, which the Minister of Health and Wellness, Dr. Christopher Tufton, says is designed for persons with highly contagious respiratory illnesses, such as the coronavirus. The unit comprises 2 isolation rooms equipped with multifunctional monitors, bathroom facility, and its own disposal for biomedical waste. It also has its own oxygen and fully equipped storage area.
And very importantly also, a storage area where all the necessary equipment, gloves, masks, bed linen that are disposable, boots for protection, drip, all the things that are required for the independent operation of this facility.
Also on the agenda was a tour of the Norman Manley International Airport in Kingston. The highlight of the tour was 3 isolation rooms, each with 2 beds, a camera and a thermal scanner which detects high fever as passengers go into their arrival department. A public health nurse was on board explaining how the camera works.
This is a camera that picks up the passengers from way down the finger. As they get here, the temperature is taken. It is reflected on the machine inside. A beep goes off to alert the member of staff that there is something wrong in terms of, which means an elevated temperature, body temperature. Passengers taken inside, interviewed, recheck the temperature with the scan machine, and from there, depending on what is the problem.
At the same time, the health minister sought to educate the public on the thermal scanner.
What the thermal scanner does, it scans everybody coming in. And as you can see on the screen, it captures a picture as well as shows a particular indicator. So when someone's temperature is elevated, it identifies or singles out that individual, at which point the nurses would pull that person out.
He says the Norman Manley Airport is equipped. On Tuesday, at an emergency press conference held at his ministry, the health minister advised that active surveillance will continue at the country's ports of entry. Aladdin Love for CBM Live.
Meanwhile, the coronavirus continues to spread outside China, and countries are on high alert as they try to prevent the deadly virus from entering their country. Our reporter Jamila Maitland has more.
The virus is now a major threat worldwide. It has already spread to 18 countries with a total of 98 confirmed cases. The World Health Organization, however, notes that there are no reported deaths outside of China. Meanwhile, the University of the West Indies Mona campus says it's taking precautionary measures to ensure the safety and well-being of the UWI students and staff in China. The UWI confirms that of the 36 students enrolled in a Bachelor of Science Software Engineering program at the UE China Institute of Information Technology, 28 students and an administrator are currently in Suzhou, China.
Planning of which I speak relates also to the university's effort dealing with parents, with our students, our staff, and of course our host institution in China, the Global Institute for Software Technology. We too are in touch with them and concerned for their students and their leaderships.
The Vice Chancellor also noted that the university will be playing its part as the threat of the coronavirus increases.
The UWI is comforted in the fact that it has established this expertise to guide not only the institution but the region, citizens, families, and to participate in the global search for solutions.
In Canada, Ontario public health officials have tested 67 people for possible coronavirus infection. 38 were negative, 2 positive, and 27 are pending. Jamila Maitland for CVM Live.
A teacher at the Pembroke Hall High School in St. Andrew who was caught on camera last November threatening to murder a male student is now facing a disciplinary hearing. Robin Williams went to the institution and filed this report.
The hearing involving the teacher Marshallie Crawford and a student at the Pembroke Hall High School saw teachers rolling out in their numbers in the color red in support of their colleague.
It was a praise and worship session outside of the institution. Teachers gathered at the gate in solidarity. Students and past students also came out in support of Crawford.
It's very sad, but I do believe that she's a great teacher. She taught me for 3 years, and she's a great teacher.
A colleague describes the situation as unfair and unfortunate.
I'm hoping that they will just dismiss the case altogether. She has done 15 years of service to the school. She has gone beyond the call of duty for her students. She's very dedicated.
This passerby gave his 2 cents on the matter.
Them don't want nobody deal with them certain way. And me grew up knowing some my teacher that forbade me, and I saw me learn manners. So it's most of the youth them nowadays, if they not get them same things in a school, you'd have less gunmen and less crime.
This teacher says he was injured by a student recently and that student has since been suspended. President of the Jamaica Teachers Association, JTA, Owen Speed, says the indiscipline has gotten worse in schools. Speed has a bone to pick with the acting Minister of Education, Carl Samuda.
He was saying that the teacher has no place in the classroom and all of that, which means that he did his trial and he sentenced the teacher before this trial that is supposed to be. And what we are even more frightened about, and I am warning the school board and the minister, we are very frightened that from all indications we heard that the minister was here at school after he made those statements, meeting with the school board. Hence, we don't know where this thing will turn.
He also has a message for the Prime Minister.
He's assuming the portfolio is not to only play the game, he is to bear the name. And if he's not bearing the name, he needs to step out and leave it, because he has no time for it, clearly.
CVM Live will continue to monitor this story. Robianne Williams for CVM Live.
The United States Ambassador to Jamaica, Donald Tapia, says he's confident that the Jamaican government can handle the pressures of communist China. However, he says as the country braces for an election, he's calling for greater transparency in the bilateral agreements, citing that China is methodical in its soft power rule. The ambassador was speaking at a Rotary Club meeting in Kingston early on Thursday. Jamila Maitland reports.
The diplomatic relationship between Jamaica and China has been the center of scrutiny by the United States ever since the government signed onto the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative in April last year. Even since U.S. Ambassador to Jamaica Donald Tapia took up his position last year, he has been questioning China's motives for doing business with a democracy like Jamaica.
The U.S. cannot sit idly by and not speak out. Simply, Jamaica is a clear track record of being a champion of human rights.
According to the Jamaican government, the Chinese have been reliable partners, and while there has been no new investment for 2019, Prime Minister Andrew Holness visited China last November to strengthen ties with the communist country. Mr. Tapia argues that China's government is methodical. He says as Jamaica braces for general elections, there needs to be more transparency in the relationship with China.
Sometimes when you're a politician, you look to the next election, but yet when you look 20 years from now, what is the outcome 20 years from now?
Jamaica reportedly received $2.1 billion from China between 2005 to 2017. The North-South Toll Road construction and the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project were built from the monies received. When asked whether the U.S. is confident that the Jamaican government is making the best decision for the country, Mr. Tapia says he thinks the government is doing its best.
I do not, in my heart, feel that there's a politician that is not trying to do what they feel is best for the constituents. Is it always the right one? No. They're going to make mistakes. We did. But your question is, do I think that they are? Yes. I think that they're trying to do their best with what they have.
Jamila Maitland for CVM Live.
One legislator is raising concerns that millions of taxpayers' dollars continue to be pumped into the cannabis industry without a clear indication of Jamaica's export market. The matter was raised during Wednesday's sitting of the Public Administration and Appropriations Committee, where the second supplementary estimates for the fiscal year was being reviewed. As we hear in this report, there's another promise from the Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture and Fisheries that the export regulations will be before Parliament at the start of the next legislative year. A line item in the second supplementary estimate for the fiscal year 2019-2020 for the Cannabis Licensing Authority was cause for concern for the North East St. Catherine Member of Parliament. Leslie Campbell pointed to the allocation to support cannabis tracking and wanted to know where was the export market for the product.
I'm yet to learn where the market is, because you can't develop an industry without a market. And I'm just concerned that we are taking a lot of money and throwing it into this thing.
The permanent secretary in the Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture and Fisheries agreed that so far, exports for the sector has mainly been that of cannabis oils for the purpose of research. He further sought to justify the level of investment in the industry, while advising that the tracking program was also to meet international legal obligations.
We cannot have an industry despite the market challenges that may be indicated, without having a system of monitoring.
Mr. Campbell was still not convinced.
Good sense is there behind us, doing all this tracking to meet international obligations, and we can't get into the markets overseas. Do we have something that we can deal with locally to meet all standards without throwing all this money?
Acting Committee Chairman Michael Phillips shared the concern and also inquired about the status of the long-awaited export regulations for the industry.
If we're asking persons to come and invest and to be able to grow the cannabis market, then those regulations are critical towards the growth of the market.
It is our expectation that at the beginning of the new financial year, those regulations will be at a stage where would be acceptable.
As at early December last year, the CLA had issued